So on this slide, you can see some interesting data points. Really four that are kind of neat here. One is when we started Premium, so that's an inflection when you started charging money. And we started pretty early. We started Premium the day we launched into open beta. We just said this is from the beginning. This is what the business model was. There's an elbow right here, which you see like at this point, every cohort started converting at a higher rate. And what we did here is we started talking about Premium, and we actually introduced some Premium-only features, whereas before it was like totally hidden. We're like, yeah, it's freemium. If you want to pay us money, if you can happen to find the link, that's great. Here we actually just added a couple of features, and immediately every cohort went, there was an elbow in that curve. Here is a really, really interesting data point here. There's no elbow, there's no visible change, which I was super relieved by, because I was actually, I was dreading this day when it was coming around to it, because this is when we had our first annual renewals. So before this point, no one had the opportunity to not renew annually. And most of our subscriptions are annual. We do monthly and annual, 77% choose annual. So I was kind of afraid that after this point, all of the cohorts would start contracting, and you would stop seeing this sort of magical expansion. But actually, the renewal season passed. Now every single day, someone is renewing and someone is not renewing. But since so many more people are continuing to buy, it keeps growing. So I was afraid there'd be a big elbow down here, but there wasn't. And then here, a few months ago, we had another elbow up. You can see every cohort, starts adjusting the premium rate. And what we did there is we added another premium feature. So in the limited experimentation, what we're seeing is revenue goes up even if we don't do anything, just as long as we sort of take care of our users, we make sure that most people are free, we give everyone a good service. And we have not tried to tweak conversion rates at all. We are not focused on the conversion rates. We didn't have a goal in mind. We haven't tried to tweak it. We haven't tried to increase revenue. But every time we do a little experiment, we go, well, let's try adding another premium-only feature. We get a very noticeable increase across all cohorts, which means that people who had been using it for a year who hadn't converted will read about a new premium-only feature and say, oh yeah, okay, now it makes sense, now I'll convert, whether they use that feature or not. So I think there's plenty of opportunity to get this even higher just by adding additional premium features. So this is the conversion rate. This is kind of what everyone wants to know about freemium business, and very few people share. I was actually very happy to see the previous presenters talk about theirs as well. I really want to encourage people to share this kind of information, because when we were getting started, no one was talking about this, and it's actually really hard to make a model where you're just guessing on everything. Here, you at least have some data points. So here's the conversion rate by cohort age. So this is the percent of all users who register that are premium by the number of months since they've registered. So in the first month, only 0.5% of everyone who registers converts to premium in the first month. But after a year, 2% of everyone who registers is now actively premium 12 months later. So 2% of everyone who signed up a year ago is currently paying us. And after 2 years, we have just about 2 years of data, it's about 8%. So it really increases as the cohorts age, as you use the system more. Now, I don't actually trust the data all the way up here, just because these are pretty early adopter cohorts, so they may not be representative. But everything from here on is mainstream usage. So I don't expect the 2-year conversion to necessarily stay at 8% or 10%, although it seems to still be growing. But we can be profitable at 1% by our models, and we get well past that into the 6 or 8% range after 2 years. And this graph is the same thing, but expressed not as a percentage of total signups, but as a percentage of active users. And so you see it's the same thing. In the first month, only 0.5% of people who sign up or convert in the first month. But 2 years later, it's 20%. So 20% of everyone who signed up a year ago who's still using the servers is actively premium. And again, still going up, which is pretty amazing. So this leads to the most complicated graph here. And I'm going to pretend to explain it to you, and you guys pretend to understand and nod. Because it's actually pretty neat. This is the average revenue per month per active user per cohort. Each little piece of spaghetti is a cohort. The x-axis is the number of months in that cohort, and the y-axis is cents per month. So what happens is, in the first month, we're making about 2 or 3 cents of revenue per active user. After 2 years, we were making like 70 cents per month per active user. Our average overall is like 20-something cents per month per active user because our average age, since we're growing so fast, is pretty young. This is a cool way of looking at it, and you can see that all of the lines follow roughly the same behavior. So you can kind of tell that we're not attracting fundamentally different users. At some point we will, right? At some point, some of these lines will look different because we'll be getting different users. For example, we just signed a deal a few months ago where we're now included on every single Sony computer sold worldwide, and that's just starting to roll out. So we're still small numbers now, but that'll contribute millions of people. We have no idea how the behavior of people who get Evernote because it comes on their shiny new laptop is going to compare to behavior of people who find Evernote themselves, but this will tell us. But this is really important looking at it per active user, because even though we can measure revenue total per user or per active user, our expenses are only affected by active users. If you don't use Evernote, you don't cost us anything. Which leads us to the expenses. This is our total variable monthly expenses per active user. And it started out off the charts, really high. And it's now down to about 8 or 9 cents per month per active user. So anyone who's actually using Evernote in a month costs us about 8 or 9 cents. If you don't use it, you don't cost us anything. This is our total variable cost, which includes the hardware, software, hosting, networking, and backup. We run our own data center. We're not using a cloud service just because of the way we've set things up. It's just a lot more reliable and cheaper to do it ourselves. So the full data center expense is about 21%. The biggest component of that is actually surprises electricity. Like electricity at this point is more expensive than CPU or networking. And storage is almost free. Like actual hard drive storage is virtually nothing. About 27% is salaries for all customer service staff, so the people that you'd have to hire more of as you get more users, so that's all included in the cost. And about 52% is the network operations staff, people that we have to hire to take care of things, which also scale. But as you can see, this goes down with time, and it goes down because of you just get better, more efficiencies, a little bit because of Moore's law, although I thought it would. I originally had much higher hopes for Moore's law, but I realized that it just operates over too long a time. It operates over like 5 years or a decade, which is a little bit too long for a startup. But also at a startup, I think you kind of have to multiply Moore's law by Murphy's law, because basically what you get is a law that says the number of things that will go wrong will double every year. But Moore's and Murphy's law aside, it just gets cheaper. So it's down to about 9 cents per month and trending downwards. And when you overlay it with revenue, which is the green line, we are kind of right here, right now. I made this graph a few months ago when we were raising money, and these were the projections I made. And I just went back a few weeks ago and actually saw where we were in the projections, and hey, surprisingly, we're actually right on the projection lines. So we're about here in terms of revenue. So we're making about 25 cents per month per active user. Again, because the average age of an active user is young, right? The older users we're making like 50, 60, 70 cents on. The newer users we're only making 3 cents on. Total variable expense is about 8 or 9 cents. So the profit margin is 11, 12 cents per month of gross margin on the users. And these lines are conservative. The expenses will continue to go down roughly at this rate because of efficiencies. And the revenues will go up like this purely through cohort aging. This doesn't include any of the other awesome things that we're going to start doing, new premium features, new partnerships, all sorts of stuff that we've got up our sleeve that should tilt the conversion rates up. We just basically haven't tried before. But even if we don't do that, just based on the cohort aging, it looks like that. So we got to gross margin profitability about a little over a year ago, and that margin has been expanding significantly.